Hi. So I get asked this question quite a bit from my clients that I work with. And the question that I inevitably get asked at least one point during our work together is, but why food? Why do I use food inappropriately? I get, Dr. Fields, that I have these unmet psychological needs and that there are these psychological reasons why I depend on food. However, why food? Why not something else? Well, food is nurturance. And if I go to the dictionary and I look up the word nurturance, this is the exact definition: emotional and physical nourishment and care given to someone, or the ability to provide emotional and physical care. So what does that mean? That basically means that you look towards food to give you that kind of nurturance, to take care of you. If you remember when you were younger, even before you could remember, when you were an infant or a 1-year-old, nurturance came in the form of a bottle. As you got older, your parents nurtured you many times with food, especially if you were upset. If you had a bad day, if you were really frustrated, if you had a difficult time with your best friend, something like that, some kind of disappointment, lots of times treats would be used by parents. But even if that wasn't so much the case for you growing up, food has and always will be a very real symbol of nurturance. It's right in the definition: emotional and physical nourishment. Food is absolutely physical nourishment. So it makes sense that when we're talking about food as nurturance, that it would be really easy to tangle the two up, to look at food just as easily as physical nourishment as emotional nourishment. So how do you stop using food to nurture yourself? I mean, what is nurturance really when we're talking about that term? It basically is providing care to someone. And if we're talking about, and I might be making up a word here, self-nurturance, it would be trying to take care of yourself. When we're really young, hopefully we have good parents that try really hard to take care of us, not just our physical needs, but our emotional needs. If they only take care of our physical needs, then they may be neglectful in terms of not addressing our emotional ones. As we get older, that responsibility slowly begins to transfer to us more and more and more. And certainly by the time we're adults, we need to be able to engage in self-care. We need to be able to nurture ourselves. If we can't, then we can't take care of our own kids and our own loved ones. So how do you nurture yourself without food? If you recall from one of my other videos, I talked about, the best way of kind of addressing any of these underlying functions of your food dependency, or dare I say addiction, is by finding alternative, healthier ways to deal with those psychological needs. And so how do you go about finding an alternative way of providing you with self-care? Certainly, there are a lot of physical kinds of activities you could do, or behaviors, taking a nice bubble bath, watching, a show that you really enjoy, going to get a massage. But I'm going to talk a little bit about a far simpler method, and that is talking to ourselves. When we want support from other people, what we want is we want them to hear us, and we want them to talk to us in a way that conveys their understanding of our feelings and what we're going through. And that's how we expect someone who is important and close to us to support us. It's no different when we're trying to support ourselves. Talk to yourself. Tell yourself that you understand how you're feeling right now, whether that be frustrated, overwhelmed, disappointed, lonely, depressed, anxious, etc., etc., etc. And then say things to yourself that others would say to you, like, this too will pass. You will get over this. It is a tough time right now, but you've gone through tough times before, and you'll be able to get through this. Yes, these bad things are happening to you, and it's super unfortunate. You don't deserve that, but you'll be able to rise above. You can persevere. It's super unfortunate that life is dealing you a really bad deck, so to speak, right now, or a bad hand, but you are able to deal with that. In a sense, not to sound so cheesy, but we have to express love for ourselves. We have to say things like, I appreciate you. I care so much about you. Even though all these difficult things are happening in your life right now, and maybe you've not made the best decisions, I understand it's really hard being in your role. It's hard to sometimes make the right decisions, or it's hard to try to get ourselves out of a hole. It's hard to weather the storm. And I appreciate your efforts. I know this isn't easy for you. We have to talk to ourselves the same way we'd want someone else to talk to ourselves. Because, and again, not to sound so cheesy, but the most important person we have to take care of is ourselves. And you might be the biggest giver and the most altruistic person in the world, but you cannot give to anybody unless you take care of yourself. And by not addressing this food addiction and not taking care of yourself and not nurturing yourself in other healthier ways is going to leave you unavailable to help and support anybody else. It's not being selfish. I remember I had a professor in developmental psychology say, I'd rather be selfish than selfless. Nothing wrong with putting ourselves first so that we can be there for other people. And what I mean by putting ourselves first is taking care of ourselves. As adults, we have to learn the skill of nurturing ourselves. It's great when we have others that can nurture ourselves. Certainly, there's a lot of research I can talk about that shows a strong social support network is key in mitigating the effects of depression. However, not all of us have a strong social support network, and even those of us who do still need to learn this skill of self-nurturance. Let's nurture ourselves in our own healthy way, in a natural way, rather than using physical nurturance such as food. It's something to think about. This is Dr. Fields. I'll talk to you soon.